Let me recall some basic principles. We aim to produce instrumental knowledge to solve personal and professional tasks. Knowledge is always based on precedents. It comes after we arrange collected precedents into a model that explains all these precedents and give us an understanding of what to do to solve a problem. In science, the precedents are experiments, like for instance physical ones, and scientists usually know the principles of conducting experiments. But in practical fields, everything is different. What shall we call a precedent in pedagogy, business or art? That's why we need a notion of the source material. It helps to distinguish precedents that could build the knowledge and eliminate all the rest. The source material is a piece of information with a non-obvious, repeatable causal link that expresses how the problem situation is changing. Even if one knows the definition, mistakes in searching the source material are inevitable, and today we will discuss 6 types of them. The first one is when the causal link is not declared. The novices at the evaluated reading course often mark up short phrases or even keywords like "History teaches us that man learns nothing from history." It's Hegel's quote. And here we cannot see any causal links. It's just a statement, an opinion. Opinions are subjective, they can't be a solid basis. Or people mark up just wiki-style texts like Walter Whitman was an American poet, essayist, or journalist. On the death of Abraham Lincoln, whom Whitman greatly admired, he wrote his well-known poem, "O Captain, My Captain." Our fearful trip is done, the ship has weathered every wreck, the prize we sought is won, and so on. These are several separate biographical facts, and it's impossible to conclude anything from them. Let's continue with the beautiful poetry of Walt Whitman. But a heart, of the bleeding drops of red, where on the deck my captain lies, fallen cold and dead. It's another example of text that cannot be source material. From the logical and practical points of view, this text expresses feelings and emotions, while we aim to solve real personal or professional problems. And the way of solving the problem must be reasoned and founded on a solid basis. But indeed, you can analyze the tropes and the rhythm and even deduce some poetry techniques, but that's another story. The second mistake is when the causal link is a bluff or a fiction. Sometimes people seriously take the stories about characters from literature. They can bring to their knowledge-based fragments about the deductive method of Sherlock Holmes, the author's techniques of Martin Eden, or even surviving tricks of Robinson Crusoe. Extra not-so-obvious examples are causal links with imaginary arguments or obstacles like, let's think of science as an orchestration of diverse talents, motives and interests. It can also be mystical causal links, but professional solutions and mystery are 2 different worlds, and we do not discuss anything mystical here. The third mistake is when the causal link is not repeatable, one of the most popular mistakes. When we have no details in the text, it allows readers to interpret the text any way they want. It means that we don't have a specific algorithm or procedure to repeat actions in the text. We lack details to ensure the effectiveness of the process. The most vivid example of this mistake is rephrasing the problem. It looks like that. How to get rid of disruptive workers? Don't hire them. What to do if a child is having a tantrum? Don't make a child have a tantrum. Do not promote stereotypes. The problem is that you do not know that some of your assertions are stereotypes, and this advice is impossible to follow. To each of these recommendations, we can put one and the same question: how? Meaning how to do that. Such mirroring the problem is dangerous because it blocks the intention to solve it and creates a sort of illusion. Yet another example of not repeatable thesis is good intentions, like do business with the right people, or well-organized process makes better results. Yes, we want to work with the right people and make the right decisions, but again the same question arises: how to do this concerning particular problems? The fourth mistake is when the causal link is irrelevant or incorrect. This mistake takes place when there are some problems with arguments. For example, the causal link can be simply outdated. It happens when an author recommends something like developing standards in cinematography, one of the most technological and standardized industries nowadays. This recommendation was appropriate in the 1920s, so the basis of the causal link is outdated, and as a result it becomes wrong. Another way to get an incorrect causal link is unjustified extrapolation of or absolutization of trends. Speaking scientifically, it's an induction that infers the principles from a very few instances. For example, 17th century scientists assumed that all swans were white. The other side of the fourth mistake is an irrelevance in considering the problem. Let me put it this way. Managers offer us to call a meeting in order to solve some technical problem. But how do they know whether we can achieve the result this way? Maybe they've seen some precedents where the same approach succeeds. Maybe the algorithm of effective brainstorming. If nothing like that, the result is unclear and there is no procedure concerning the essence of the issue, then the recommendation is irrelevant and out of the point. The final, fifth type of mistake is when the causal link is a part of a common knowledge when it is obvious. For example, if famous YouTubers explain the Big Bang Theory, they simplify it. Suppose we are interested in problems of theoretical physics as scientists. In that case, we read scientific magazines like Nature, and do not read Popular Mechanics or Scientific American, and do not watch Vsauce. This is the point. Another example, when the recommendation is to interview candidates. It's an example of an obvious causal link. If a technique is a standard and everybody uses it, it's unnecessary to take it in your knowledge base. Unfortunately, some brands present well-known techniques as new solutions, and what's more, of a promise, as the case may be. For example, mind maps, neuromarketing, leadership, blue ocean, etc. The final example of such a mistake is the start, continue, finish recommendation. Often authors just explain obvious organizational steps instead of methods of solving the problem. To call a meeting, you need to contact the people, find a meeting room, hold a meeting, and take the stock. In some sense, these steps are inevitable if you call a meeting. There is no need to describe them if no details are added. These were 5 typical mistakes in searching the source material. How to check yourself? Apply the information filter checklist from the information filter video, link in the description. And finally, I'd like to warn you because you will make several types of mistakes regardless of what I tell you or not. This is the way it is, but my duty is to inform you beforehand. Those interested in building the skill of searching the source material, wait for the announcement of the value-added reading course that we will launch soon. Now you can check out the other videos on the channel. Thank you.